All righty. Well, son of a gun. We are to what I think is going to be the position that might stimulate the most discussion. And who knows? Maybe we've all got the same six guys, but we're going to talk about the two deep on the wide receiver position. Why don't we
Best
just do?
position on offense. Can we
I
just get
don't
that
know
out of the
about
way?
that.
Wait,
Deep.
say that again, Tyler.
This
Deep
best
like the
position on
ocean.
offense.
It's the deepest, but I'm not sure if it's the best yet.
If you guys are thinking
Um,
running back is, then I like
Yep.
what running back is. It's a lot better, but running back, it's like, how do you go from the worst position group to the best with? I don't know. Anyway, we'll get into that, but I like it. I like it.
Grant. Wide receiver, why don't we do it this way? Why don't you guys, we'll go around the table real quick and we each give our first three that we think are going to run out. And then we'll go back around and we'll, each of us will give our second three that are going to run out. I'll kick this off. And I've gone back and forth. But I think the first three guys that run out onto the field will be Marcus Washington, Omar Manning, and Trey Palmer. I'm not sure which one will be the X or the Z, but I'm pretty sure Palmer's going to play the slot for the most part this year. So that's who I have as my top three. Scott, why don't you go ahead and throw your top three out there?
I've got Omar Manning, Trey Palmer, and Alante Brown.
Alrighty. Brown, Manning, and who was the other one? I'm typing.
Alante
Sorry.
Brown.
Okay. Palmer. Okay. Cool. Anybody else have anybody different besides those four guys that Scott and I have mentioned?
So I want to talk about wide receivers here because until I did this little exercise of like jotting down, putting pen to paper on who, where I was going to put as starters and the backups, I never felt so worried about our wide receivers until I did this, because me and Derrick, we've had this long conversation about going, I like to put these receivers in like tiers, like projected starter, probable starter, and possible starter. And there's the lines get blurred right there between those. This is not a scary group at all. If you look at it, like Omar Manning last year.
I find that funny because you're going to go around and turn it around on running back and talk about how deep they are. And they're about as proven as these wide receivers are.
About as proven. They're half as proven.
Okay, so let me finish here. I mean, if we're talking about all of these guys that could be in the top three, and there's a lot of names that you could really plug and play in here. Trey Palmer, Trey Palmer had a little over 300 yards at LSU. Omar Manning had 380 yards last year, and then everybody else. I mean, you have Isaiah Castanado Garcia coming in. He didn't participate in spring ball, but he had like 580 yards, whatever he had at New Mexico State, the one that Tyler wants to compare to Northern Arizona because they're hot. They play in hot climates. And some of these other guys, and there's nobody that's coming back in this group that is like, wow, that guy is going to be a flat out baller. And we have names because, they have a little bit of action. But so using my
who
criteria,
are we supposed to pick then, Justin?
So using my criteria for like a projected starter. Okay, I have Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer, I think he's going to be the guy. And the reason I'm saying that is because of what we gathered out of the spring game. He was in for a couple series and they got his ass out, just like Casey Thompson. They got their proven guys out. Probable starters. I got Omar Manning in there. I think he's a probable starter. I don't know if he's sealed. I mean, this guy's he's a senior now. He's been in the program for a while, junior college transfer, but he's never lived up to the potential that all the Husker fans have put on this guy ever since we got him out of JUCO, right? And then it comes down to that third spot, and that is like a plug and play. I mean, I could not find a definitive starter. So it comes out of my little tier of possible starters. And none of them are highly interesting. And I'm putting Oliver Martin in this group just because, kind of like Omar Manning, he's just been around forever. He's never lit the world on fire, but he's been around for quite a while. And so those are my three guys right there. But it's not a scary group.
I'll disagree with you when it comes to Martin, simply for the sake that he did kick off the season last year against Illinois. Bad game for the Huskers, but he had a great game. 135 yards receiving. He got injured to the point where his leg was basically not flexible at all until the very end of the season. I think Martin was poised to have a good year last year, and maybe if he's healthy this year, he could have a good year this year, but I don't have him in the starting three. Simply, the reason I went with Washington as my first pick is because of all the receivers in that room, Casey Thompson's likely going to have the most ability with him. They've played
And he's a guy that didn't
before. They know each other.
participate in spring ball, wasn't even on campus, didn't,
Yeah, I get
he's
that.
behind
I get that.
the
but
power curve on learning of the offense.
I get that, but you just said this is the receiver, the position group you have the least amount of confidence in. I think you would be a little more confident in the guy that's actually played with who's going to be our quarterback. So that's why I picked Washington more than I picked any of the other guys. Is he's played with Thompson. They're going to have some rapport with one another. So anyway, let's see here. We've got three of us that have gone so far, right? Me, Scott, and Justin. How about you, Tyler? Who do you've got in the top three coming out?
I mean, I've got the exact same three as Justin.
Okay.
My stance on those three is completely different than Justin. Like, I think that is a really solid Big Ten wide receiving crew. Like, I mean, you look at those three and you're like, man, that's like this kind of ragtag. I think that's a really good group. Trey Palmer's clearly our number one wide receiver. I think Omar Manning's their second best wide receiver. And then I have Oliver Martin there. I really could have interchanged Oliver Martin with a couple guys. I think there'll be about a couple guys that will really take equal snaps as him. But I'm not saying that this is three NFL guys, but I mean, I look around the Big Ten, I'm like, well, I like this receiving core more than what Iowa is going to roll out there, more than what Wisconsin's going to roll out there. I mean, I think this is one of the top 4 or 5 wide receiving crews in the Big Ten. I mean,
so your tier group is a lot like mine. You got a projected guy, a possible.
Yeah, I get. But what you think of those guys' upside is different. You're like, man, I don't feel great about them. Honestly, when I think of this year, I think of 2018. If you guys go back to 2018, you had Stanley Morgan go over 1,000 yards, J.D. Spielman go over 800. I don't know if I see the same production, but I think Trey Palmer pushes that 900 bearing. I think Omar Manning kind of gets to that 600, 700 mark. And then I think you get like a few guys instead of like that 120 yards they put up in 2018. I think there's a few guys that get like 200 yards receiving and mix it out. I like Trey Palmer. I'm really psyched on him. I think that him coming in is a really good restart. I think he's going to be like a Wan'Dale Robinson from LSU. I think I'm psyched for him.
I would be shocked if we had two guys that combined for, 1,500 yards. Whatever you said.
That's about what I would have thought. I think
I would be shocked if we had two guys. I'd be shocked if we had two guys that combined for 1,200 yards.
Well, so what do you think we're going to throw? Do you think? Get the fuck out of here, Justin.
With the whipple offense, you're not going to have two dudes that get 1,200.
That's all right. I can't.
You
I
guys
can't
are getting
with
spicy.
him. I can't with him. You loved Trey Palmer 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, you're about to get a tattoo with him across your forehead. And now you're like, oh yeah, he's gonna go for 400 yards. He's a bum.
I mean, you can still go for like 700, and then the next best wide receiver go 500.
So
that's 1,200.
That's 1,200. That's what I said. Yeah.
You said you'd be shocked if we had that.
Apparently, our quarterback's only going to throw for about 2,000 yards this year.
Yeah.
That's going to be a long
the worst
year.
passing offense Nebraska's ever had. You have to go back to Tom Osborne.
Ken, I'm with you. Ken, I'm 100% with you. I don't think there's an argument. I disagree with Justin. I don't think Omar Manning and Trey Palmer are on two different levels. I think they're both starters. I think it's hard to argue. You look at those two guys and you sit there and go, oh, who's going to start above them. There's nobody going to start above them. The third guy is a little more skeptical, but I'm going with you. Like Marcus Washington, he's already played with Casey Thompson. He's had a couple of receiving touchdowns from Casey Thompson.
Had a couple of 100-yard games.
Yeah, like why would this guy not be in there with him? I think that's half the reason he transferred here. If there's anybody, in my opinion, that's going to give him a run for his money, it's going to be Alante Brown getting in there with him instead of him. But
yep, I'm with you. I am with you.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah,
that's the only reason why I picked Brown is just because of
why? Well, yeah, why are you guys picking Brown?
I'm picking Brown just because best case scenario with Marcus Washington is he shows up, gets the playbook down right away, just absorbs it all right away, understands what his role and his position is, and is able to transition his talent to the field. Alante's been here a while, and he was plagued by a nagging injury all of last year, or for a majority of last year, or however that played out. I don't really remember. And honestly, I picked Alante Brown just because of bias favoritism. I like the dude. I think he's a cool dude.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me translate Justin for you. So Justin's stance is, if you're not an All-American already and you haven't played yet, if you've played, you haven't produced enough. And if you haven't played, you're a bum. So you can't win unless you're an All-American returning. Like, that's the only way you're worth a shit.
I get that. I get that pessimistic viewpoint. I understand the glass is half empty. That is how I tend to think of things. So I've actually completely empathize with Justin's overall takes at this point.
If you,
I'm gonna also add that I'm gonna buy a little into the all the spring talk of him about how much he's improved.
And did you see that in the spring game?
Did we see anything in the spring game? Really,
we didn't see shit in the spring game. We saw stuff that was so vanilla. They forgot to put the vanilla in. It was terrible. It was unwatchable football.
If you're basing the whole season off the spring game, then you just want to go put your head in the sand and wait for your fucking prom, dude.
I tell you what, I would rather base things off the spring game of something what I can see instead of like what the coach speak is during the spring. Nobody's watching the practices. All you have to hear are other players like pump everybody else.
They go by your standard. Going by your standard, there's no way Casey Thompson's starting a season. There's no way they let him play 3 plays and pulled him and was like, yeah, that's our starter.
I mean, that's what I would deduce out of that. If there's like, okay, that's our confirmed starter. We don't need to see any more.
Honestly, I make my preseason guesses, because that's really all I'm doing is guessing, is just honestly off of intuition. Like, that's it. That I can use the spring game as kind of a lens. I can use the previous season as a lens, which last year we really didn't have much to go off of. So this year, really, the only thing that I can really truly guess when it comes, especially with the wide receiver room, like it's a freaking weird room. Tons of potential, but nothing that's really been proven up to this point. Really, all I can do is what's my intuition, and what's behind my intuition, my emotions. So how do I feel about a guy? Well, I kind of like Alante Brown, so that's why I picked him. I like Oliver Martin?
You don't need to justify it. That is a very solid pick. Ken, I'm going to kick off the backups here.
Go for it, man.
I'm all fired up. Justin does this to me.
He's all.
He does it because he loves you, man. You know that.
No, he doesn't. He gave me swirlies and wedgies as a kid, and now I'm a lot bigger than him. And
he does it. He really does it because he likes getting kicked in the nuts. Like it's a hobby of his.
Don't kill me, guys. Please don't kill me.
I got Alante Brown and Marcus Washington, 2 guys you guys named the starters. I had Oliver Martin. I think those 2 guys are really in the conversation. The 6th guy, I think, is really kind of a moot point. I brought this up when we did defense about a month ago, and I highly encourage anyone to go listen to that. So I think we gave the best predictions, better than any magazine out there. But to me, the 6th wide receiver is only to be used in case of injury. And I'm going to go Brody Bell. There's a lot of names out there. But DB, David Benning, has been all over this guy.
Sure.
I think that, he thinks he's one of our 4 best wide receivers. I think he actually has him starting. I think there's a lot of talk about him. I actually thought he played pretty well in the limited action that he played last year. I like Brody Belt. And I cannot, the other name that I wanted to put in there is Janarian Bonner. And I had this conversation with Justin and Derrick. I can't get my head around playing a true freshman 5 to 7 snaps a game. And maybe that's what we should be doing, but he's the other guy that I'm kind of there. IGC, Isaiah Garcia, he's in that conversation, but I'm going to go Brody Belt.
I'm just going to speak for Justin here and say if Brody Belt is in the top 4, shut the program down.
Well, David Benning today said that he is. I think David Benning still has him as a starter.
So,
well, Justin will shut his TV off and quit being a Husker fan if Brody Belt is a starter on day 1.
Hey, I would not be shocked if he takes that number 3 slot after Trey Palmer and Omar Manning. It's wide open after that. There's nobody out there that.
So I must have missed it, Tyler. Your second 3 is Brody Belt.
Brown, Washington Belt. Brown, Washington.
Brown.
Belt.
I thought you said that. I just wasn't sure if that's what I heard. Okay.
I actually. So with my 3, I've got, which going to kind of prequel my view of running backs, but my backup 3 is weirdly enough. So I've got Oliver Martin, Camonte Grimes, and potentially, so we got IGC, but it would not surprise me if Ramir Johnson ends up over in a slot receiver position a lot, almost being like a wide receiver, but not officially. But just based on how many snaps we get as a
so he's
wide
the Duck
receiver.
R.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think
Mark Whipple doesn't know what the fuck a Duck R is, okay?
No,
Scott,
but he likes to throw some of those. He does like to throw some of those sideline routes. So
let's go. You guys go. I can't.
Ramir Johnson's got great hands, man. He's got great hands. And so it's like, why not move him over? He's proven. He's an athletic dude. He's stupid quick. If he could figure out route running, it would not surprise me if he was number 6.
All right.
I don't hate that pick.
Sorry.
Yeah, I really don't.
It's a hot take. That's really all it is. It's just a spicy hot take.
I wouldn't put him in my top 6, but I do think you'll see him over there a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Justin.
All right. So for my backup 3, and these are basically the alternates that we're going to fit in for Oliver Martin as my 3rd wide receiver. And Marcus, and this is in the order that I would have them in. Marcus Washington, Isaiah Garcia, Castaneda. I think Castaneda can be starting by the end of the year. I think what hurt him was sitting out in spring with the with the injury. That kind of set him back a little bit. But headed in Northwestern, he's going to be probably that 5th guy until he can, do his thing. But I love the ceiling of Castaneda, even though he played at New Mexico State. And then my 6th guy is Alante Brown. I mean, I think that guy can be in there. But, Alante Brown and Brody Belt at this level. I mean, Alante Brown, Brody Belt, and Wyatt Lever are like tied for my 6th best guy.
Alrighty.
Fair.
Alrighty. I could definitely see those 3 being backups as well. Derrick, go ahead.
I got Oliver Martin, IGC, and Alante Brown.
Already? Well, you just made it easy for me. Now I can just add your name to Justin's because I know you love him. Mine, I think I've got the same. Yeah, I've got Martin Brown and IGC as well. I've got IGC as the 6th guy, but I've got Martin as the 4th.
I have Martin as
you had Washington. My bad.
Don't put Derrick's name on my shit.
Sorry.
Please.
Sorry. What can I say? I'm under the influence of red Gatorade. So, yeah, it does the trick. Well, it's better than Kool-Aid, right? At least I get it's got electrolytes.
I don't want to tip our hand to running backs, but like I find it. I had Bonner. Do you guys see? Do you guys see a wide receiver, true freshman? Either him, Crawford, Victor Jones, any of them. So we're shaping up here between the Big Red Roundtable. I really believe, unless somebody pulls a shocker at running back, that we're going to have no true freshmen playing this year.
So I'm going to add to that. I think you're right, Tyler. I mean, as far as meaningful time, so you even add Bonner, Crawford, and Jones. I know Scott had Grimes in there, but I think Kamani, Grimes, and Hardy, I think they're left out of the picture also.
Don't you think Bonner? I find it fascinating for a team that, especially at some of these positions, like you're like they didn't crush it last year. That you think that none of the new guys, like these true freshmen, like other schools, 4-star freshmen come in and play, and we're like, nah, not in Nebraska. I mean, we're too stacked to have a 4-star play right away. I don't know. I'm on that boat too. I wouldn't be shocked if like a Bonner or Crawford do creep in there. And
so who would you knock? Okay, so typically Nebraska, they play like 5 or 6 guys, right? 5 or 6 guys.
Brody Belt's the name I knock out. I put Bonner in over Brody Belt. I was half tempted to do that for my 6th guy.
So who were your backups? Let me read on the back.
My backups was
Belt, Brown, and Washington.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Belt, Brown, and Washington. I don't have Isaiah Garcia Castanado in my top 6.
You don't have him in top? Okay. I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, he could be. I wouldn't shock me. I think he's a good talent. I mean, it's a matter to be, like I said, he was in that conversation. There's a lot of.
I honestly think that you didn't realize that New Mexico State was an FBS school until we hit record.
We've had this conversation. I have not been high on him. I have not been as high on him as you guys.
You know, he has the most yards last year out of anybody playing on our offense.
Hey, Justin, do you know I was an all-district offensive lineman at some small-ass school too? Oh, yeah, and high school. That's what you're talking about right now with New Mexico State. You're talking about, like, he had 500 yards. He wasn't Smoratory crushing this competition. Again, maybe he will be. This goes back to the reason I love this room. Because there is 8 or 9 guys that I really like in this room. And I think it's deep. I think it's talented. You take out Ohio State. Maybe I'm bullish here. Maybe it's the bourbon tonight. But, I really do. I think I put our wide receiver room. To me, it's clearly the best position. And the fact that I don't have Isaiah Garcia Castanado in my top 6 is evident of how good I think this room is. Because I think he is a good talent. I think he starts at Iowa. I think he's a starter for some other Big Ten teams. I don't have him in my second string.
Lost in this whole conversation that we've been having about wide receiver, and lost especially in some of the pessimism that I've heard from a certain member of the cast, is the fact that we've got that wild card in the wide receiver room in their coach, and the fact that he's one of the best in the country. He's a developer. I could see a guy like Janaran Bonner being one that really takes to his system and jumps in there and actually gets a lot of meaningful snaps about halfway through the year. But I just don't see. I'm not sure how Mickey Joseph handles true freshmen. Has he played a lot of true freshmen in his background? I never looked all that closely, but I think when all is said and done, I think he's going to go with the proven guys. He's going to go with the guys that really jump on to his coaching style and work with him, which is why I think somebody like an Omar Manning, somebody like an Oliver Martin even is going to really benefit from the fact that Mickey Joseph is here. I would not be surprised to see somebody like an Oliver Martin in the top 3 by the time the season is over.
Plus, those guys are like 23, 24 years old. I mean, that helps.
Yeah. And he's
18, 19 years
He's
old.
one of the most athletic people on the entire team, too. Yeah, I mean, his scores and some of the agility drills and stuff last year were eye-popping. The fact that he got hurt in the first game sucked, because I thought he was poised to be that guy that, puts up 700-800 yards like a Spielman would do regularly.